Everyone loves a well-built truck, but some manufacturers took engineering to a whole new level. These are the most over-engineered trucks ever made, machines packed with tech, complexity, and features no one really needed. From war-grade drivetrains in civilian streets to luxury pickups with carpeted beds, this list shows how far automakers can go when they forget about practicality. And the one at the top, it was designed for a world that barely even exists anymore. The Dodge Power Wagon, born in 1946, was never meant for grocery runs or Sunday cruises. It came straight from the battlefield, adapted from Dodge's military WC series used in World War II. Everything about it screamed excess. Oversized axles, steel everywhere, and a four-wheel drive system that could climb a wall. Its inline-six engine wasn't fast, but it was unstoppable. With heavy-duty transfer cases, waterproof electrics, and a gross vehicle weight over 8,000 pounds, it was built to survive the apocalypse. Civilian buyers loved the rugged looks, but quickly discovered that daily driving felt like operating farm equipment. Fuel economy was terrible, and comfort didn't exist. Yet, 75 years later, many of these trucks are still running. That's how overbuilt they were. Dodge engineered the Power Wagon like the war never ended. It wasn't practical, it wasn't efficient, but it was indestructible. And that made it the blueprint for military-grade engineering sold to civilians who would never need half its capability. International CXT was what happened when engineers took a medium-duty commercial truck and tried to make it a pickup. Built on the International 7300 chassis, it weighed over 9,000 pounds empty and stood so tall you needed a step ladder to get in. It came with air brakes, commercial-grade electrical systems, and a cab that looked like it belonged to a private jet. This was not a truck built for practicality, it was built to intimidate. Under the hood, it had a 7.6-liter inline-six diesel engine pushing out serious torque, though horsepower was modest. Air suspension, hydraulic systems, and components designed for delivery fleets made repairs expensive and overcomplicated. It had a 1-ton payload, but the people buying it were not moving concrete. They were moving egos, and parking one was basically a daily nightmare. Fuel economy was worse than most semis, hovering around 7 to 8 miles per gallon. Many mechanics refused to touch it due to the heavy-duty systems and parts that were hard to source. With a price tag north of $100,000 and zero practicality for daily use, the CXT remains one of the most absurdly over-engineered trucks ever sold to the public. Mercedes-Benz G63 AMG by 6x6 was a six-wheeled monster born from military DNA and dipped in luxury. Mercedes engineers took the already extreme G-Wagon and added to more wheels, portal axles, and a twin-turbo V8, making over 500 horsepower. The result was 18 inches of ground clearance and the off-road presence of a tank. Inside, it had hand-stitched leather, exotic wood, and enough tech to rival a luxury sedan, but every part was custom. The suspension, drivetrain, and electronics were built specifically for this machine, which meant repairs were complex and expensive. And because only 100 units were made, parts availability quickly became a nightmare. The 6x6 cost more than $500,000 new. Owners loved showing it off in Dubai or Los Angeles, but rarely took it anywhere near a trail. It was a truck built to conquer deserts, but engineered with a diamond-encrusted wallet in mind. Ultimate excess, on 6 wheels, the Hummer H1 was never designed for civilians. It was born from the military's Humvee and brought to public roads with almost no compromise. Massive width, portal axles, and a central tire inflation system made it nearly unstoppable off-road, but incredibly awkward on city streets. Its diesel engine favored reliability over speed, and the interior was cramped because the drivetrain ran right through the middle. Driving one felt more like piloting a tank than a truck. Fuel economy hovered around 10 miles per gallon, and parking was a daily challenge. Despite costing over $100,000, maintenance required military-grade parts and knowledge. Most owners never used even 10% of its capability. The H1 was over-engineered to survive war zones, not suburbia. The GMC Hummer Eve took everything excessive about the original Hummer and electrified it. With up to 1,000 horsepower and a curb weight over 9,000 pounds, it was more powerful than most supercars and heavier than some buses. It could even drive sideways using crabwalk mode. Its air suspension, four-wheel steering, and regenerative braking systems were incredibly advanced, but added layers of complexity. The electronics managed thousands of battery cells and dozens of motors just to keep things running smoothly. And when something went wrong, it often needed factory-level service. Owners praised its performance, but early models suffered from software glitches and inconsistent build quality. The Hummer Eve was a rolling showcase of electric over-engineering, built to impress not to simplify. The Tesla Cybertruck ignored every truck design rule ever written. Built with a stainless steel exoskeleton and armored glass, it looked like a low-polygon video game render come to life. It didn't have a traditional frame, just a rigid shell that was both body and structure. With up to 845 horsepower, steer-by-wire, adaptive air suspension, and even solar charging capability, the Cybertruck packed in more tech than most luxury sedans. But that innovation came at a price. Panel gaps, software bugs, and repair challenges hit early owners hard. Its radical design made manufacturing incredibly difficult. And while it turned heads on the street, many questioned how practical it really was. The Cybertruck wasn't just over-engineered, it was a bold experiment that may have pushed engineering further than it was ready to go. The Ram 1500 TRX was a muscle car, disguised as a truck. With a supercharged 6.2-liter Hellcat V8 producing 700 horsepower, it was one of the most powerful production pickups ever built. It could hit 60 miles per hour in just over 4 seconds while weighing more than 3 tons. To handle that power, engineers equipped it with Bilstein adaptive shocks, massive brakes, and reinforced chassis components. It could jump dunes at high speed and still drive home in comfort, but all this came with compromises. Fuel economy dropped to 10 miles per gallon, and maintenance wasn't cheap. The TRX was built to outgun the Ford Raptor and make a statement. Most owners never used its full potential, but paid for it at the pump and in service costs. It was overkill in the best and worst ways. The Ford F-150 Raptor R took off-road performance to a new level. It featured a supercharged V8 with over 700 horsepower, massive 37-inch tires, and suspension inspired by desert racing. This was not just a truck, it was a trophy truck made street legal. Its adaptive Fox shocks, reinforced frame, and advanced terrain modes allowed it to blast through sand, rocks, and mud like a Baja racer. But maintaining that performance required constant attention. The suspension alone could cost thousands to repair if abused. Owners loved the power and presence, but fuel economy rarely broke 14 miles per gallon. Most Raptors spent more time at Whole Foods than in the wilderness. It was an engineering marvel made for extreme use, but rarely used extremely. The Chevrolet Silverado Zerta Bison was built for serious off-road use, but loaded with complexity. It featured Multimatic DSSV spool valve shocks, front and rear locking differentials, and reinforced steel skid plates. All of it designed to tackle terrain most owners would never even see. The suspension system was race-inspired and tuned for precision, not simplicity. Repairs and replacements often required specialized parts and tools. The electronics managing traction, damping, and drive modes added another layer of potential headaches when something failed. Despite being marketed as an adventure truck, most Zerta Bisons lived suburban lives. It was over-engineered for the trails, but mostly used for school runs and grocery hauls. Performance was real, but practicality took a back seat. The Toyota Tundra earned a reputation for lasting forever, and that wasn't by accident. Toyota engineered it with oversized components, reinforced frames, and bulletproof V8 engines that could survive hundreds of thousands of miles. It was built with durability as the top priority. This over-engineering meant water pumps, alternators, and suspension parts were often far more robust than necessary. But that came with trade-offs. The Tundra was heavy, less fuel-efficient, and slower to evolve compared to rivals with more modern tech. Owners appreciated its reliability, but paid for it in gas mileage and outdated features. The Tundra was a truck built to outlive its competition, even if it never quite outperformed them in specs or style. The Honda Ridgeline approached truck design from a completely different angle. Built on a unibody platform, it drove like a crossover, but looked like a pickup. Engineers gave it features no one asked for, like a trunk built into the bed and a dual-action tailgate that opened two ways. It came loaded with electronic aids and comfort features usually found in luxury SUVs. While that made it smooth on the road, it limited its towing capacity and rugged capability. Off-road or heavy-duty tasks exposed its limitations quickly. The Ridgeline was a clever solution to a problem that didn't exist. It was over-engineered to impress drivers who never planned to haul, tow, or get dirty. In the end, it was more suburban science project than serious workhorse. The Chevrolet Avalanche was one of the boldest pickup experiments ever made. Built with a unique midgate system that let drivers extend the cargo bed into the cabin, it combined SUV comfort with truck utility in a way few vehicles ever tried. This design required complex seals, reinforced structures, and removable rear windows. Over time, those seals often failed, causing leaks and whine noise. Owners also complained about poor fuel economy and high maintenance costs tied to the intricate design. While the Avalanche had fans who loved its versatility, most buyers found it unnecessarily complicated. It was a truck loaded with clever engineering that often created more problems than it solved. The Ford F-150 Lightning SVT was a street performance truck that sacrificed utility for speed. With a supercharged 5.4-liter V8 pushing up to 380 horsepower, it could outrun many sports cars of its era. But it still looked like a work truck. To handle the power, it had lowered suspension, performance tires, and upgraded brakes. That setup made hauling and off-roading almost impossible. It was fast in a straight line but not practical for typical truck tasks. Enthusiasts loved it for its muscle car attitude with a pickup bed. Still, the Lightning was a classic case of over-engineering for a very narrow purpose. Impressive on paper, but not built for daily truck life. The Dodge Ram SRT-10 took things to the extreme by dropping a Viper engine into a full-size pickup. Its 8.3-liter V10 made 500 horsepower, turning the truck into a high-speed missile with a bed. It was the fastest production truck of its time. To manage that power, engineers redesigned the suspension, reinforced the frame, and added massive brakes. But towing and hauling were afterthoughts. The lowered stance and performance tuning made it impractical for real truck work. It burned fuel like a muscle car and handled like a heavyweight trying to dance. The SRT-10 was thrilling, but wildly excessive, built to impress, not to be useful. The Chevrolet 454 SS was all about raw power in a straight line. It came with a massive 7.4-liter big block V8, something you'd expect in a drag car, not a pickup. It delivered up to 255 horsepower and mountains of torque. To support the engine, Chevy installed stiffer suspension, performance gearing, and bigger brakes. But the truck was heavy, drank fuel like a jet, and didn't offer much utility. It was more about attitude than function. The 454 SS looked cool and sounded even better, but it was never meant for hauling lumber or towing trailers. It was a showpiece of early 90s excess where speed came first and practicality never showed up. The Lincoln Blackwood was a luxury truck experiment that went too far. Built with plush interiors, wood trim, and a carpet-lined bed, it tried to mix elegance with utility, but ended up confusing everyone. It looked like a limo with a cargo area. The bed was covered and sealed like a trunk, making it nearly useless for real work. Underneath, it was just a dressed-up F-150, but with more electronics and less capability. Even basic repairs often required specialized service. Buyers didn't know what to do with it, and sales flopped hard. The Blackwood was a perfect example of over-engineering comfort into a category that valued strength. It looked premium, but functioned like a fashion statement. The Cadillac Escalade XT followed in the footsteps of the Avalanche, but added a luxury twist. It featured the same midgate design, allowing the cargo bed to extend into the cabin, but wrapped in chrome, leather, and high-end electronics. It was a status symbol on wheels. The complex electronics, adaptive suspension, and premium trim made maintenance expensive. Issues with the midgate seals and body cladding were common, and parts weren't cheap. The Escalade XT often ended up in the shop for things regular trucks never had to worry about. It was built to impress more than perform. the EXT offered luxury buyers a truck look without the truck toughness. Over-engineered to the point where style overtook utility, it struggled to prove its worth as a real pickup. The Nissan Titan XD diesel aimed to fill a gap between light-duty and heavy-duty trucks, but ended up stuck in no man's land. With a 5.0-liter Cummins diesel engine, it promised torque and towing, but couldn't match the real HD trucks on either front. Its frame was stronger than a standard Titan, but not as capable as a true 3/4-ton pickup. Buyers were confused by its positioning, and the added complexity of diesel systems brought high maintenance costs without enough payoff in performance. Sales never took off, and support dwindled quickly. The Titan XD diesel was an over-engineered compromise, built to be everything and ending up as not quite enough of anything. The Ford Super Duty Platinum is a rolling fortress of high-tech features and oversized engineering. From factory-installed massaging seats to radar-guided cruise control, it packs more electronics than many luxury sedans. Underneath the comfort, it hides a beastly frame built to tow over 20,000 pounds. The dashboard looks more like an aircraft cockpit, loaded with buttons, screens, and systems most owners will never fully understand. Adaptive steering, trailer backup assist, and power deployable running boards all sound great until they break. And when they do, repairs can get expensive fast. This truck was designed for serious work, but it's often bought for looks and luxury. The level of engineering is impressive, but in many ways unnecessary for the average driver. The Super Duty Platinum is what happens when capability meets success head-on. The Jeep Gladiator Rubicon brings off-road engineering to the pickup world with no intention of being subtle. Built with solid axles, front and rear lockers, sway bar disconnects, and rock crawling gear ratios, it's basically a Wrangler with a bed and a mission to conquer terrain. On paper, it's unstoppable. The engineering is impressive, but most owners never use even half its capability. The Rubicon's complexity includes electronic off-road systems, removable doors, and a convertible roof, all of which add to the fun, but also to the maintenance headaches. Water leaks, rattles, and alignment issues are common complaints. It's a truck built for Moab, but often seen in suburban parking lots. The Gladiator Rubicon is overbuilt for the average driver, turning legendary off-road tech into a daily driving compromise. Extreme where it counts and excessive where it doesn't. These trucks went way beyond what anyone asked for. Some are brilliant, some are ridiculous. All of them prove that more engineering doesn't always mean better. But here's the question: would you own one? Or are they just cool to watch from a distance? Drop your pick in the comments and subscribe if you like machines that go too far.